You're watching Newsday TV. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ken Bufa. A man has been convicted of murder for the death of an FDNY EMS captain from Long Island. 37-year-old Peter Zizopoulos could be sentenced to 25 years to life. Allison Russo was stabbed to death while walking near her job in Queens.
Lieutenant Russo was a hero by any account. She served on 9/11. She was on the pile. She served on during the cleanup, and she could have retired.
The 2022 attack was caught on surveillance video. And a former NYPD detective has been sentenced to 2 to 6 years for a DWI crash that hurt 2 people. George Moore of Freeport pleaded guilty last year to several charges stemming from the accident. He crashed into another car on the Meadowbrook Parkway in 2023. Now that car turned over and went up in flames. The 40-year-old resigned from the NYPD after the crash. And the National Transportation Safety Board says the Brooklyn Bridge was not damaged after it was hit by a ship in a deadly crash.
There is no significant structural damage to the load-bearing elements of the bridge.
Navy tall ship slammed into the bridge on Saturday night. 2 sailors were killed and nearly 20 others were hurt. Officials say the ship lost power and got trapped in a current. Nearly 300 sailors were on board. And another rabid raccoon was found in Amityville. The Suffolk County Health Department says this is the 6th case in the area this year. Now, health officials are getting ready to have a vaccine baiting campaign later this year and are urging the public to vaccinate their pets. All right, let's take a quick look at tomorrow's weather. It was absolutely gorgeous today. Tomorrow's going to be just as nice with clouds overhead, temps in the mid-60s. We will have that 7-day forecast for you coming up in the broadcast. All right, so tickets for Wednesday's Pacers-Knicks game at Madison Square Garden, they're not cheap. The least expensive ticket on StubHub as of this morning, Monday, was $763, and that's including fees. It's actually cheaper to fly from LaGuardia to Oklahoma City to see the Timberwolves and Thunder. Conference finals begin at MSG Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. And Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens is getting an $800 million renovation. You're looking at the renderings of the future stadium here. Now, the upgrades will increase the number of courtside seats from 3,000 to 5,000. And this comes after record-setting attendance at the U.S. Open in 2024. Only in Newsday, Long Island House Republicans are clashing with their own party's leadership in a battle to raise the cap on the SALT deduction. Newsday's White House correspondent Laura Figueroa Hernandez explains.
Congressman Nick LaLota and Congressman Andrew Garbarino, have been meeting with Speaker Johnson all week. There's been this proposal that was floated for there to be an increase to a $30,000 cap, but that would only apply to households with an income of $400,000 or less. So LaLota and Garbarino are arguing $30,000 is not enough as a deduction, and even the $400,000 income limit is too much for Long Islanders. They're pushing for a higher deduction, they're pushing for a higher cap, and they're also pushing for an increase to the income threshold. The critical thing here is that House Republicans are trying to pass President Trump's big sweeping tax bill through a party line vote. So the Long Island Republicans know full well that they do have power in numbers. Speaker Johnson can only afford to lose 3 votes, and already there are 5 so-called salty Republicans who have kind of banded together to say, we're going to stop this if there isn't an increase to the SALT cap.
Now this week, a tunnel connecting Penn Station to Long Island will be shut down for repairs. Alfonso Castillo looks at what's being done and what it means for commuters.
If you've ever sat in traffic on the Long Island Expressway, you know how much worse it gets when a lane is closed off. Now, Long Island Railroad officials are worried the same kind of jam may be coming to Penn Station.
So here's the situation. There are 4 East River tunnels shared by 3 different railroads, all connecting here at Penn Station. Long Island Railroad, Amtrak, which owns the tunnels, and New Jersey Transit. For the next 3 years, one of those tunnels is going to be out of service starting later this month as Amtrak conducts repairs to sandy damage in the tunnels. And the Long Island Railroad's concern is what happens if you lose another tunnel while one is already down, and that happens more than you might think.
We're not exaggerating, we're not being dramatic. This is what happens, and this is what we warned people about.
That was LIRR President Robert Free speaking out following the latest in a string of Amtrak-related service disruptions at Penn Station. On May 7th, a power issue inside one of the tunnels snarled the morning rush hour for the LIRR, forcing dozens of delays, cancellations, and train diversions.
I don't know how much more we can take, and it's unacceptable.
To lessen the impact of the tunnel repair project, which is set to start on May 23rd, the LIRR has been pushing Amtrak to limit the work to nights and weekends, allowing all the tunnels to stay in service during the weekday rush hours. Amtrak says that's not feasible, and that to do the job right, they need to keep the tunnels shut down around the clock. 2 of the concrete tunnels were badly damaged by floodwaters during Superstorm Sandy. Amtrak says it will take about 13 months to fix each of the tunnels, with a 3-month break in between the 2 repair jobs.
I don't really see how you could go just closing a tunnel for 3 years. I don't really see how that makes sense.
The strength need to be there, safety need to be there. So I fought for the full-time shutdown of one line.
I want to take longer if they only did nights, and so I see both sides of the story.
Now, you might be wondering why it's taken so long to fix damage in these tunnels caused by a storm 13 years ago. Well, one big reason is that both Amtrak and the MTA thought it was best to wait until the completion of Grand Central Madison, which gives the Long Island Railroad a second route onto and off of Manhattan. If they didn't have Grand Central Madison, this situation would be much, much worse. Outside of Penn Station for Newsday TV, I'm Alfonso Castillo.
As we get into the summer season, a lot of Long Islanders are going to be looking to get out on the water. But there are some changes to the boating rules this year and some safety tips you should know before you head out.
You have incidents out here all the time. It's a never-ending saga.
We met up with Mike Negri, an instructional captain with the Freedom Boat Club in Lindenhurst, to go over some boating basics.
We have a life cushion, that's your throwable device. We have a life jacket for everyone on board. This is our box with our flares, our registration, distress flag for an emergency.
The club's memberships allow you to use a boat without having to purchase or maintain it yourself, giving more Long Islanders and beginner boaters the opportunity to enjoy the water that surrounds us. But this year, every New Yorker who drives a boat has to take a safety course, whether you've been boating for years or it's your first time. It's part of Brianna's Law, named after Brianna Leineck, an 11-year-old from St. James who was killed in a boating accident in 2005.
Speed has a lot to do with a lot of the incidents, I personally believe. Unlike a car, you just can't jam on brakes or pull over to the side.
Mike personally trains over 100 people a year, covering things like getting off and on carefully, connecting your kill switch, designating a lookout, and making sure everyone under 13 is wearing a life jacket. Plus, navigating through the buoys and sandbars, which constantly change with the season.
Tides, currents, we teach them about weather. We teach them a little bit about navigational safety, following what are called the rules of the road, so to speak.
State data shows on average there were 23 recreational boating deaths a year between 2010 and 2023, caused by things like speed and drivers not paying attention to their surroundings. Mike says most boaters are on board with the additional training and want to keep our waterways safe. People caught driving who haven't taken the course face a fine up to $250. Reporting for Newsday TV, I'm Macy Egland.
Important stuff there. Now let's take a closer look at your 7-day forecast, shall we? Where we can see how the weekend is shaping up. Now, like I said, tomorrow we're going to have those beautiful temps with clouds overhead. Wednesday, Thursday, we will have some rain. Friday, Saturday looks clear. And Memorial Day, that's coming up this weekend as well. It's going to be a nice one.
Long Island weather is brought to you by Fire Island Ferries. Only in Newsday, there are over 50,000 unlicensed drivers on Long Island who are more likely to be involved in deadly crashes. What can be done to keep you safe? Dangerous roads, unlicensed drivers. Now available at Newsday.com.
You're watching Newsday TV. For more on all your stories, head over to Newsday.com. I'm Ken Bufa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Watch Newsday TV on the big screen. Use the remote to activate Siri, Alexa, Roku, or the Google Assistant on your streaming device. Say, install Newsday. Newsday TV, covering Long Island like no one else can. Get more of the stories you've seen on Newsday TV at Newsday.com. Plus breaking news, investigations, things to do, restaurants, and other Long Island news you can't get anywhere else. At Newsday.com, covering Long Island like no one else can.